Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we conclude our three-part series on the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction taking place in the sign of Taurus in April of 2024. We've been looking at this as one of the most talked about and exciting transits of the year ahead, if not the biggest transit of the year ahead. In the first two parts of this series, we really looked at the archetypal nature of Jupiter-Uranus. Today we're going to do horoscopes. So we will give you a sense of what to expect given your sun or rising sign. These are whole sign house horoscopes. And you can listen for sun or rising, whatever you prefer. And this will be a horoscope that explores the whole sign house placement and the topics likely to be activated as well as the archetypal expression that you're likely to see through the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So that is our goal for today. We're going to conclude the series by doing some horoscopes. Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your comments and reflections in the comment section, especially if you already have a sense of what might be happening or where things might be going. It's always interesting to write those things down, even if you just write them down for yourself and you don't write them in the comment section, because then you can look back and you can look at what you what you thought might be happening as opposed to what actually happened, which I think is an interesting exercise. And I do that all the time with a lot of the big transits that are coming, even really basic things like Venus entering Scorpio and the kinds of things I anticipate may come up, during that transit and the big aspects to like Jupiter or Uranus or whatever. I love doing that. So highly recommended. Anyway, you can find a transcript of today's talk on the website, nightlightastrology.com. As you guys know, we are making our push towards 1,777 backers by New Year's Eve. We are on our way to that goal. A big thank you to everyone who has already donated. You can find the link to the Kickstarter pinned to the top of the comment section of this post or in the description of the video. And we so far want a big thank you to the 348 backers who have already pitched in to support this channel and our team in the year ahead. We still need 1,429 backers by New Year's Eve. We still have a long ways to go, and we need a lot of help to get there. Every day, what I've been doing is taking a moment to talk about what I value as an astrologer so that you know what you're supporting and you know what goes into the content that you're supporting when you pitch into the Kickstarter. Today, I want to talk about three elements of my work as a teacher and reader that contribute to the content that I create, because there's sort of three parts of my career. Of course, there's content creation 5 days a week, year round. That's what you get from this channel, obviously. And then there is my daily client practice where I meet with people and I read charts. I read horary charts. And over the years, I have done all different kinds of readings. And then there's also classes that I lead. I have, at any given time, we have 6 different programs going. So there's a lot of work as an astrology teacher. There are many ways in which my work as a teacher and reader contribute to the kinds of content that I create and kind of like the spiritual intention that goes into the work each week. So I want to mention those real quick. Number one, I've heard a lot of stories. As a reader, I am fortunate in that I get to talk to people about their lived experience of astrological placements and natal charts and astrological transits to placements and natal charts. And I have been doing that 24/7, 5 days a week for going on 14 years. So with the different types of readings that I've done all different kinds of readings over the years, really long ones, really short ones, horary readings, you name it. I've probably done that type of reading before. But so I think last I counted, we were somewhere between 12 and 13,000 readings that I have done in the course of going on 14 years. That is a piece of my resume that I am proud of, not because, it's a big number, but because I believe that one of the most fundamental parts about becoming better as an astrologer is seeing astrology alive and at work in people's lives. The best part about that number is the amount of stories I've gotten to hear and the amount of astrology I've gotten to learn and the amount of soulful connections, heart-centered connections I've gotten to make with really interesting human beings. I love stories. I love astrology stories in particular. And if you guys watch my channel, occasionally I like to do storytelling episodes where we literally feature your stories and share with everyone what's going on. And you learn a lot from those. Like every day of the week when I sit with people, I hear stories about Jupiter-Uranus. I hear Uranus transits to Jupiter. I hear Pluto transits to Venus. I hear Saturn transits to the midheaven. I have like something like an almanac, like an astral an astral omen diviner's almanac in my head of stuff that has happened, like from the most rare, weird stuff that's happened under certain transits to like the most common. And so the stories are really what I draw on most in the ways that I shape a lot of my content. So what you know when you're watching the channel is that a lot of the way in which I shape the content, the way I teach the archetypes and the planetary combinations come from going on 14 years of daily client experience. It is like the engine of everything I do. I couldn't be a teacher. I couldn't be a content creator if I didn't spend time in a reflective, heart-centered kind of astrological counseling space with beautiful people like yourselves out there. I've done readings for some of you, and it's a real privilege. And I'm still learning a lot and still growing a lot as an astrologer. And it's my favorite part of the work, and it plays a huge role in the way I create the content. Number two, I fielded a lot of questions. I've been teaching astrology also for 14 years. What started as facilitating a group study and just being sort of a facilitator led in time to being a teacher. And over, going on 14 years, there's been thousands of questions that I fielded as an instructor. It is it's really important to get used to saying, I don't know, right? Because it's not like I know everything about astrology. I'm always learning more. And over the years, I've learned from teaching how to teach. I've learned from teaching how to listen. I've learned from teaching how to learn. I've learned from teaching, what kinds of things people tend to get stuck on and what kinds of things tend to excite people. And so the process of fielding so many different questions about astrology, it's been one of the main ways in which I've learned and grown, because there's a lot of things that you run into. You go, geez, that's a great question. Don't know. And then you have to dig and find out and see if you can find out at any rate. So one of the things that goes into the content I create 5 days a week is the fact that I'm a teacher of astrology who has been working with, listening to, and working through my own questions, let alone, students' questions for going on 14 years. Number three, I've seen what it looks like in both of these settings and how it feels when people learn, heal, and grow with astrology. Not every reading is either I'm not on my game or the alignment might not quite be there. Some readings are just off a little bit, but you know exactly what it feels like. If you're an astrologer, you know exactly what it looks like and feels like when something's connecting. And so you learn how to make symbolic connections with a kind of instinct. It just develops over time. And sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. Just like you sit down to write and sometimes it's just a flow and other times it's a little clunky. That's part of being a reader, but I've seen what it looks like and how it feels when I'm reading the symbols in a way that is like aligned somehow. It's in a zone. And I've seen and felt what it's like when clients are connecting with astrology or the symbols of a chart or the way we're creating a conversation around the symbols in a chart, and it's doing something special. So I know what that feeling is like, and I know, I know what it looks like, and I know how it feels for astrological symbolism to help healing and growth. Not that means I'm going to hit it every time again, but I know what it looks like and feels like. And it's a really important part of what goes into creating the content that I do. And then I also know what it looks like when students are learning and excited about what they're learning. And I know what it looks like because I also know what it's like to be excited and growing in my understanding of astrology, because I've been doing it for a long time. And I've also been, helping other people learn astrology for a long time. Those are subtle little things that, they go into everything that I create on this channel. So I wanted to take a time to explain who I am, why I do what I do, because it's a better way to promote the Kickstarter program that I do every year than just say, hey, help us get to our goal. Here's what goes into the creation of everything that we do at Nightlight. If you are able to, we would love your help. We need to get to 1,777 backers by New Year's. When you go over there to the Kickstarter, and again, you can find the link in the comment section pinned to the top or in the description of the video. And you go over there, pick up 50% off any of our classes or 75% off if you get up to the 3 or 4 class bundle. Pick up a reading, pick up a special lecture series that we offer exclusively through the Kickstarter, or my book. Lots of good rewards that we give to say thank you for your contribution. And thank you so much again to everyone who's already donated. Let's see if we can't get there by New Year's Eve. All right, on that note, I hope you will enjoy the Jupiter-Uranus horoscopes today. Take it. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. We are continuing to look at the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the sign of Taurus, which will be happening in April of 2024. We've been saying that this is arguably the biggest transit of 2024. And in our first two parts of this series, we looked at the archetypal combination of Jupiter and Uranus we picked some historical examples that were really interesting. And then we looked at some personal stories from my client practice that nicely illustrate the combinations of Jupiter and Uranus. We talked about some of the signs to look for in your natal chart because not everyone will experience the transit as powerfully as everyone else. A lot of it depends on how things are positioned in your natal chart. But what we're going to do today is now take a look at the horoscopes. So we're going to walk through the 12 rising signs. Of course, you could listen to this for your sun sign as well, whichever you prefer. And we are going to look at where the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction lands by house, and maybe some other contextual details in the horoscopes of all of the 12 signs that can help you start to think about where this conjunction is taking place. Jupiter's about to turn direct by the end of the month of December, and then pushes forward all the way until April when it meets Jupiter in the conjunction. So, Uranus in the conjunction. So we're getting close to a turning point that then is like shooting Jupiter toward the conjunction with Uranus. So the end of this month really starts us on the track toward that conjunction, which is why it's also a good thing to take a look at, in addition to the fact that it's fun at the end of the year to look forward and see what the biggest transits of the next year are. By the way, if you want to look at all of the major transits of 2024, it's one of the Kickstarter rewards that you can pick up. Alex and I break down all of the major transits of the year in one of the reward videos that we offer. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to put the real-time clock up on the screen. We're going to start with Aries, and we're just going to go one sign at a time. All right, so here we go. So we start off with, if you're listening to this as an Aries sun or Aries rising horoscope, it's the same thing. And I recommend your rising always because it will correspond with the whole sign house version of your birth chart, which means the transits are in the actual places that they are traveling through in the natal chart. And I think that makes for the most accurate horoscope. But Jupiter-Uranus conjoin in your second house if you are an Aries. And I look at that and I think, well, what else is going on in the chart? Well, there's eclipses in the 1st and 7th. Pluto's just entered the 11th. Saturn's doing its work in the 12th house. I think that one of the things that can happen is we just think, oh, okay, well, there's going to be a breakthrough with money. There's going to be breakthroughs around finances or business, the development or cultivation of resources, a windfall financially, a big investment or purchase, some shift that's sort of seismic around money, and it looks very good. I mean, this is one of the horoscopes people probably get the most excited about because Jupiter-Uranus is a pretty optimistic transit, and then put it in your financial house and people get starry-eyed, so understandably. But look at the context of everything else that's going on. What is a breakthrough in around finances, resources, what you have or are in possession of, or what you are trying to cultivate that can help you in life to become more self-sufficient or to provide for yourself? That is also tapped into significant changes in your identity and relationships, right? So there's a theme of individuation in the first house for Aries. There's a theme of crystallizing wisdom around relationships, or the South Node in the 7th house. You've also got Pluto, who's entered your 11th house and tends to create larger social transformation in the 11th house, the change in groups or friends or colleagues or allies, changes in your long-term visions, hopes, or aspirations, and who that connects you to. So there's a theme of individuation and social or relational change that's happening in the charts for Aries, and then we put the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the 2nd house, and the shift around resources has to be put into that context. So how is this change around resources, this opening of possibilities or opportunities with respect to money, business, assets, skill development, how is that related to significant changes in relationships, the process of individuation, and larger social and maybe even ideological social changes that are happening in your life? That's what I'm looking at for my Aries folk out there right now. Let's move along to Taurus rising. When we place the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction into the first house, the theme is one that the theme of individuation is now the theme that offers the most expansive kind of opportunities for breakthrough and personal change and growth. So you think of rapid personal change, rapid personal evolution, a rapid development of your body or your health. I could see this being a time of real personal awakening for Taurians when it comes to taking care of yourself, or kind of like a new chapter when it comes to health and wellness. Jupiter-Uranus is about expansiveness and breakthroughs. And when you place that in the house of vitality and health, you think, okay, you could really be starting healthier habits or taking care of yourself in ways that are a little bit more, they're going to lead to better results. You place the context now. Context is everything. You've got the nodes in your 12th and 6th. You have Saturn in your 11th. You have Pluto just entering your 10th. Especially with Pluto entering the 10th for Tauruses, think about a massive change in personal identity that's also leading to or connected with very deep level of transformation that's underway in your career or your work in the world, or your the work that you do to earn money or make a name for yourself or follow a calling or develop mastery with some set of skills. Pluto's starting to work into that 10th house, creating tremendous change in that area. Well, there's also a signification of personal growth and development that's sudden and exciting and expansive. And this is all happening in the spring. So, around April, I wonder if this isn't one of the first flashpoints that we see connecting a significant personal change with the kind of transformation that Pluto wants to do in the 10th house. Pair that along with the North Node, Aries in the 12th, you might want to be careful of inflation or of going too big, or of letting your ambitions drive you in ways that are unconscious. Almost like the theme of hubris comes to mind a little bit. But also there's insights that are crystallizing with the South Node in Libra in your 6th house. What's worth sacrificing for on behalf of? What is worth working hard on behalf of? And this kind of personal theme of liberation, freedom, growth, breakthroughs. Maybe there's something there that says, you know what, I've carried some kind of cross. I have been suffering under the weight of various social obligations or expectations that I've put on myself, and I'm ready to change. I'm ready for a greater degree of creative freedom or autonomy or originality. Those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about for Tauruses. That's my rising sign. So I'm like, well, I don't know what that is yet, but sure be interesting. We'll see. You guys, I'm going to show up with purple hair and you're going to go, okay, we know, we know what happened. All right, I'm done. Okay, so let's go to Gemini rising. Gemini rising, we place the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the 12th house, which is very interesting because here you have a transit that's all about personal breakthroughs and expansion of opportunities, and yet you have Saturn moving through your 10th house for a couple of years. I wonder if, because where is this heading, right? Jupiter's heading into your 1st house by June. Uranus by the late June of 2025 will be also heading into your 1st house as Saturn finishes up in your 10th. I feel like the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction for Geminis is planting a seed of revolution that's going to take a little while to play out. It's you're starting to go into the contractions of like a year and a half long labor. That sounds awful. Sorry. You got to think of it like that, because Jupiter goes into the 1st in June, and you start getting the theme of personal growth and expansion, kind of fertile energy for your self-development with Jupiter heading into your 1st, coming off the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, but it's squaring Saturn throughout 2024 in the 10th, which is maybe putting the brakes on or holding you back or making you feel a little heavy or bored or exhausted with respect to work and worldly endeavors. Jupiter, in the meantime, wants to expand personally. So if you ask me, I think for Geminis, this is about the seeds of an unconscious desire for liberation and massive personal change and greater personal freedom that isn't accessible yet. So you want to be careful not to let this become the expression of a kind of reckless defiance. I'm going to start drinking, or I'm going to, I'm going to start doing things out of frustration that are actually going to be harmful for me. Whereas if we think of this more as a seeding point of revolution, then in time, the weight of Saturn in the 10th lifts at the same time that Jupiter's finishing up in the first and Uranus is entering the first. And then I think the result, which is personal freedom, greater personal realization. Like, I am really being myself. I'm not holding anything back. I think that's what's on the way in the long term. But it's because the seed's being planted in a rather unconscious space and Saturn's doing its work in the 10th, it's going to take a minute. You also look at Pluto in the 9th, sort of fueling the change of philosophy, a change of mind, of providing some kind of higher perspective. That's going to be a part of what is fueling the need for personal change, taking you all the way into the summer of 2025. All right, let's go ahead and move this along to Cancer. With Cancer, we see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in your 11th house, place of friends, allies, groups, a place of wishes, hopes, and aspirations. When you see Jupiter-Uranus in this house, you start thinking about a long-term dream or goal or plan, collaboration and creativity with other people, especially maybe one thing that's interesting is you see that the Mercury is retrograding over the North Node, and this is just after an eclipse on April 8th in your 10th house. This, to me, for Cancers, looks like there's some need to revise or implement changes in your career, but it's for the sake of some new dream or vision or goal or plan or collaboration or community development that you're really excited about. But in order to realize those goals and aspirations, in order to make those connections meaningful and substantive, there's like a process of revision taking place in the career. So I like this as, for Cancers, as some kind of very exciting development around community, friends, groups, aspirations that connect you with other people, and planning those things out and developing those things. But it's a process of change that's going to take a little while, as there's a seeding of a solar eclipse in your career house on the 8th, and then the Mercury retrograde in the 10th. So it's going to take a minute, but some powerful breakthroughs happening around this time for Cancers in their career and connecting with other people, probably in relation to your dreams and professional goals. All right, let's keep going. Actually, one more thing to say about this. With the eclipses also in the 10th and 4th, for Cancers, you may be having to look at the long-term plans around your career and these aspirations and dreams that you have. But it's simultaneously coming as there's this kind of crystallized wisdom happening, or old cycles are completing with respect to home and family. So the balance between home, family, and these worldly exciting endeavors and opportunities opening up will also be a big part of the story. All right, let's go to Leo rising. With Leos, we see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction happening in your 10th house. Now, that's the place of your career. Broadly speaking, it's about how we develop a sense of participatory relevance in the world. What am I doing? How am I contributing? What do I know? What am I good at? What is my status, or where do I fit in terms of the kind of the marketplace of the world? And for Leos, we're looking at a significant moment of innovation or breakthrough or change professionally, new opportunities that come through that are very exciting, breakthroughs where there's been stagnation, excitement where there's been boredom. Kind of a change of momentum in your career could also be the way we're looking at this. Now, it's coupled with a few other things. One, Pluto's been moving into your 7th house of relationships. So how is this shift in professional direction coupled with the massive transformation that's starting in the house of relationships? The two may be connected. We also see the nodes of the moon creating the eclipses, and we've just come off an eclipse on April 8th in your 9th house with the North Node. There are exciting new ideas that are shaping the direction of your life. Philosophies, religious experience, higher-minded 9th house material that's popping up with a lot of Aries excitement, which is action-oriented. Or there's a Mercury retrograde too, revising, rethinking, re-strategizing your higher principles. Your moral, spiritual compass is going through some kind of significant change. as these kind of breakthroughs and openings in the career are happening, and as we see Pluto making this significant ingress into the 7th house of relationships. So those areas are all connected for Leos coming into the month of April. Now let's go forward to Virgos. So for Virgos, the conjunction of Jupiter-Uranus is in the 9th house, the place of our higher beliefs, our paradigm, our morals, or our ethics, our spiritual, philosophical compass. And when Jupiter-Uranus is in that house, the idea is that subject matter may be lighting your heart and mind on fire. There could be significant breakthroughs in your understanding of a subject that you love, or you could be just getting bit by the bug of some subject. Like people, Jupiter-Uranus is great for astrology, by the way. So people who get really excited about yoga, or they get really excited about astrology, or they decide to go back to school to study something, and there's the feeling of having found your calling or your teacher or a set of teachings that are revolutionizing your life very quickly and rapidly and unexpectedly. So you think about this as a kind of revolution of mind and spirit that's happening for Virgos in the 9th house. Now you're pairing that also against the kind of stuckness of Saturn in the 7th. There's heavier, deeper lessons, or there's a kind of gravitas around the area of love and relationships, and also of things that are, karmic cycles that are ending or completing themselves. The 7th house is the place of the setting sun, with Saturn in it is associated with endings. So what's ending, what's resolving, what's completing, what deeper lessons are there around relationships that may be contributing to this kind of revolution of mind and spirit? That's a great question for Virgos right now. Of course, with the nodes of the moon across your 2nd and 8th house, you also think about accompanying lessons or insights around money, around personal finance and resources, and around collaboration with other people, what other people can or can't offer you. So that is kind of a few different topics all connected at once for Virgos. Let's go ahead to Libra. Libra rising places the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction into the 8th house. So with the 8th house, we have the possibility that you are blessed, or the way is opened thanks to what other people are providing. This is the kind of transit that will often coincide with someone's spouse getting a raise and creating more ease or flow or freedom in your life, thanks to what good openings are happening for a spouse. As the 8th house is a house of our partner or other people's assets, wealth, income, resources. So the blessings that come through other people or come through fortunate connections with other people is one possible interpretation of Jupiter and Uranus conjoining in the 8th. The other possibility would be that there is great freedom coming because you are getting out of relationships or soul contracts or codependent dynamics that are simply not as healthy for you, and that there's a great freedom when it comes to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the 8th house, the ability to liberate you from bondage. The South Node is in the 1st house. The North Node is in the 7th. There's a lot of focus on the development happening in relationships, and the kinds of sacrifices or compromises that are happening in relationships, the give and take between self and other, and the question of assets and resources, and what kinds of compromises are good ones and not so good ones. What does reciprocity mean? What does an equal distribution of the weight look like in relationships? How can you free up yourself, or how can you help free up someone else that you're close with through a kind of give and take of what you have and what they have? So getting creative with other people to generate more freedom or opportunity comes to mind with this one as well. All right, let's continue on, and we go to Scorpio rising. With Scorpio rising, we take the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. We see it in the 7th house, the place of relationships. We also see that Pluto's just entered the angular 4th house, and thus we have a set of themes that are connecting between the 4th house of home and family, roots, living environment, the kind of basic level of the foundation of the chart, which suggests things like security and stability. Pluto entering the 4th house is shaking up the roots of our life. So you see people move, you see major, sort of deaths, births, marriages in home and family, major changes in family karma. And that happens as Jupiter-Uranus is conjoining in the seventh, creating breakthroughs and opportunities and expansion and possibility in the realm of love and relationships. Sometimes when love and relationships come into our life and open up a lot of possibility and excitement, it comes while we also have to, choose to differentiate ourselves from our family or ancestral past. In order to say yes to something new, it'll immediately bring up the kind of cords that keep us caught in old patterns that come from the past. This is also about creating a new pattern with someone new, maybe creating a new home or base with someone new. So I like this in terms of the exploration of family karma and relational karma simultaneously, with the theme of openings and new possibilities, transformation at the roots. Pretty deep stuff for Scorpios around this time, with Pluto being angular. Let's go to Sagittarius. Sagittarius, we see the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the sixth house. Now, one of the ways that I've heard the sixth house described that I've always really resonated with, because it was called the joy of Mars, and Mars was the planet not only of frustrations and misfortunes and adversity, but also perseverance and courage. The perseverance, courage, drive, determination, hard work, and stick-to-itiveness that we need to withstand the sort of slings and arrows of life. And so Jupiter-Uranus here, to me, suggests the thrilling way in which we are able to overcome obstacles, challenges, difficulties, the breakthroughs we have in the process of hard work and sacrifice that we're making toward our desired outcomes or goals. This kind of has the feeling of like the moment when you're running and it goes from being really difficult and labored to hitting that stride and getting that runner's high. So I think of like the Jupiter-Uranus in the sixth house as indication of a breakthrough in things that you've been carrying that have been hard. This is where it starts to pay off. This is where the sacrifice, it's all been worth it. This is where you overcome something difficult. This is where there's a breakthrough in something that's been challenging. So I love that for Sages, because I think Sages also thrive off from that. Sagittarius was originally a sign that was associated with the running of the marathon. I don't remember exactly how that connection was made, but I do remember hearing that at one point. Anyway, remember the context here, excuse me, for Sagittarius includes Saturn in your fourth house, which is a heavy place, given it's the place of home, family, ancestry. Makes me wonder if the breakthrough you're experiencing right now doesn't have to do with the weightiness that you've been working with while Saturn's been in your fourth house, a weightiness around home, family, roots, parents, living environment, a kind of Saturn in the fourth is very deep, but can be very heavy. And so if you think about the kind of heaviness at the roots, Jupiter-Uranus in the sixth feels like, if you've been carrying something heavy, that there's a feeling of having gained wisdom or insight, or you're starting to overcome some of the struggles that have been bearing you down. So anyway, those are some of the contextual factors that really stand out to me for Sages. You could look also at the fact that the North Node is in Aries in the fifth house, which, in my experience, any kind of North Node eclipses in the fifth tend to amplify the need to go in your own direction creatively. Creative individuality. It's not just individuation, it's creative individual. It's what do you do? How do you express yourself creatively in ways that help you get unstuck? There's sometimes the best way to change something when you're suffering is to do something creative. So this feels like it could also contain some significant creative breakthroughs for Sagittarians. So I like that month of April for you guys. All right. Let us now look at Capricorn rising, which places Jupiter-Uranus into the fifth house. Now, this is the house that was called the joy of Venus, the place of pleasant, fortunate things, romance, children, pregnancy, creativity, the arts, sensuality. This is a kind of a space of creative breakthrough for Capricorns. And I've said recently that Capricorns often are carrying a cross, and that the cross is meaningful. And, it doesn't always feel that way. And certainly there's suffering involved. But the question is, can I carry the cross that I've been given without A, being crushed, which is not a given because we can be crushed by the crosses we carry. And can I not become bitter, resentful, cynical, spiteful, suspicious, like that? Jupiter-Uranus in the 5th house for Capricorns right now, to me, suggests that there is an opportunity for creative, joyful expansion, a breakthrough in creativity. The 5th house in Indian astrology is sometimes called the joy derived from one's dharma. Okay, well, here's a great moment to start feeling like the dharma, the duty you carry, is not only a duty, but also a joyful creative act. I think for Capricorns, there's nothing more uplifting than thinking I've got a duty to do, but there's something fun, exciting, and creative about it, at least at times. And this is a transit that could give that for Capricorns, which I think would be probably appreciated. Now, there's North Node development in the 4th house. So you're thinking about the growth and development, exploration of desires around home, family, roots, living environment. And then the South Node in the career house, crystallizing insights and wisdom around your role in the world, your professional direction. So that you also think about these creative breakthroughs coming in relationship to what the nodes are speaking to around home, family, and career or public reputation. There's some way in which the creative breakthrough depicted by Jupiter-Uranus is being coupled to those themes that the eclipses are speaking to, as well as Pluto entering your 2nd house and starting to create some kind of transformation around what you have, what you're in possession of, your resources, stuff like that. So the cultivation of resources in Aquarius could be very intellectual or technological. It's like you're coming into possession of new ideas that are helpful, and then pair that with the creativity of the 5th house, Jupiter-Uranus, and I think you have a lot of kind of exciting new developments happening. All right, let's go forward to Aquarius rising. With Aquarius rising, we see Jupiter-Uranus in the 4th house, again, place of home and family, of roots, living environment, parents, ancestral karma. The roots of the chart are also the place that we experience liberation from the world. It's like your bedroom or your living room after a hard day of work. So Jupiter-Uranus here suggests to me that there is a new way, a kind of a breakthrough when it comes to how you take refuge, where you find safety, or how you find safety or security, or where you find rest or release from worldly things. There could be a greater joy growing in the more private sphere of your life. That's, the breakthrough in that area is just as important as a breakthrough in any other area. Think about moving to a location that really makes you feel like you can stretch out and relax. Your soul really feels at home. It really feels safe. Your nervous system settles down. Well, that's a nice kind of breakthrough, isn't it? Pluto moving into the 1st house for Aquarians is starting to create the need for tremendous personal, physical change. Often for Aquarians, that's going to mean, at the very least, trying to balance the tension between the mental and the physical at a deeper level. Jupiter and Uranus in an earth sign in the 4th house also suggest a kind of the development of a kind of earthy, solid base, a base of sensual, embodied pleasure and contentment. Maybe that's part of the personal revolution or transformation that we're seeing for Pluto entering the 1st house. Maybe that's part of the change we're seeing with Pluto entering the 1st house for Aquarians. Also have to wonder, with the eclipses forming in the 3rd and 9th house, if there isn't a change of mind, a change of heart, a change of thought going on. The changes in mind and paradigm, the changes in learning and thought that can lead to personal growth and transformation. Those that we're connecting now, the eclipses across the 3rd and the 9th, with Pluto entering the 1st. But I think it probably still comes back to the question of, do we have an earthy, sensual, embodied, safe, comfortable base to work from? And I think there's going to be some breakthroughs around those topics for you. All right, for Pisceans, we have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in the 3rd house. And the 3rd house is, it's like the environment of a fish tank, for like a goldfish or whatever, for some tropical fish. Changes in the environment of the tank can dramatically harm, right, the fish. But this is not a harmful, negative, challenging transit that's introducing, toxins or difficult things into the environment. Not so much as it describes a breakthrough in the environment that could be creating a greater degree of happiness, ease, freedom, flexibility. Jupiter-Uranus is about breakthroughs, Venusian breakthroughs. Is the mind becoming a safer, more luxurious place to inhabit? Why? Probably because it's being opened, expanded, softened. It's becoming less rigid. It's becoming more harmonious and hospitable. So you think about mental and emotional breakthroughs that can create a safer, more stable environment for Pisceans. Changes in the environment may include people, places, or things that have to change for the environment to change as well. You think about breakthroughs in terms of what your environment looks like and how you're setting it up so that it is the most conducive to your happiness, stability, well-being, and a feeling of like safe, embodied ease. It's not going to be like that all the time, but we need to have a lot of features in our environment that are set up to support our life finding some kind of flow. I think Pisceans are looking for that and experiencing some significant changes that could help you create that kind of flow during this time. The need for that might be coming from the fact that Saturn's in your first house, and that can feel heavy. You can feel weary or weighed down by Saturn. And so, we look to support in the environment. We try to change or create a better environment once we realize what's exhausting us, or what kind of boundaries need to be set in place, or what we have to say no to. Our no's and our yeses are so closely connected. If Saturn's telling you no to one thing, Jupiter-Uranus might be saying, if it's no to that, it's definitely yes to this other thing. So let's put more of that into the environment to support ourselves. This may also have something to do with the cultivation of money and resources, with North Node eclipse having taken place on April 8th in your second house. You think about the development of your assets and resources, changes in environments that are more conducive to peace and flow, and looking at the heavier, weightier, existential nature of Saturn in the first house, placing some pressure on you to change what you have, change what the environment looks like so that you feel better. I think that's probably some of what we're looking at with the context provided here. And Pluto into the 12th house for Pisceans as well is, Pluto in the 12th house is a long, slow process. It's going to be there for several decades. And what Pluto does in that house is it starts us walking down a path of self-discovery that's made very, very slowly through our connection to collective changes that are happening in the world, especially along the lines of ideas about the world, ideas about humanity, ideas about, social or collective experience. So you also are, it could be easy right now with Saturn in your first house and Pluto entering the 12th to feel like you have to figure out the problems of the world. And, there might be some role you have to play, but you certainly don't carry all of it. And that might be what Jupiter and Uranus is suggesting in the third house too. Like, take some of the weight off your own shoulders. You might be processing some of you have empathy as a Piscean. You might be processing some of the hurts you feel or see in the world, but you can't carry all of it. You have to free your mind from some of that burden. So anyway, these are some of the things that I see for all 12 signs. Given the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, I think it's arguably the biggest transit of 2024. We're also going to spend some time looking at Pluto moving into Aquarius again. And just like we did last year, we're going to try to unpack some of the archetypal nature of Pluto and Aquarius. And so we can start turning that jewel again and preparing ourselves for that outer planetary ingress, which is another one of the major transits of 2024. Anyhow, that is our talk for the day. Don't forget, we are moving toward our goal of 1,777 backers by New Year's Eve. We still have a long ways to go, but I want to say a big thank you to everyone who's already contributed. Please help us get there. We really do need your help. All of our programs are 50% off, so you can get 50% off any of our online programs, the first-year program, second-year program, third-year program, the Horary program, the Masterclass series, the Roots and Spheres program. All of those different courses we offer, which are wonderful for personal or spiritual development, or for the sake of developing a professional practice. Those are all not only 50% off, but if you bundle them together, you save even more. So we have a bunch of rewards offered as well. Astrology of 2024, year ahead horoscope readings, my new book, The Oracle Speaks, So check those readings out, check the rewards out, pitch in, help us get to our goal. We really appreciate your support, and we will see you again tomorrow. Bye, everyone.